Within just under 3 minutes, Ukraine delivered a devastating blow to the brain of Russia's long-range airstrike operations on the Eastern Front. Two Su-34s were completely destroyed, and 2 others sustained severe damage. At the same time, a primary bomb depot went up in a chain reaction, erasing dozens of KAB-500 and FAB-250 bombs awaiting loading, right in the heart of Marinovka Airbase, Volgograd region, a location long considered a safe rear base. There was no early warning and no interception response whatsoever, but the most striking part, 3 small unmanned aircraft, costing less than $100,000, outmaneuvered Russia by 1 full step, preempting an airstrike that had been months in the making. Exactly 3:14 a.m. on June 26, 2025, 3 small drones took off from a covert launch site in Ukraine's Sukhumi province, flying low across the Don River, a major waterway that cuts through Belgorod and Voronezh before penetrating deep into the Marinovka Airbase area. Each drone was programmed with a 3-phase waypoint flight plan. The main flight path stretched over 438 kilometers, beginning in Sukhumi, Ukraine, slicing through Russian airspace in Kursk while avoiding fixed radar centers by hugging low-altitude civilian air corridors to blend in. Each drone carried a 20 kilograms warhead loaded with C4, programmed for a single mission: eliminate fixed targets inside Marinovka Airbase. Top priority: the Su-34 strike fighters, among the most advanced bomber fighters in Russia's arsenal. For weeks, Ukrainian signals intelligence and reconnaissance units monitored Marinovka closely. Satellite imagery, encrypted communications, and elevated activity around maintenance bays and primary bomb depots indicated Russia was covertly preparing a new long-range bombing campaign, likely targeting strategic cities like Kharkiv, Sukhumi, or even Dnipro. A total of 12 Su-34s, each valued at $50 million, were stationed there. These aircraft are the backbone of Russian airstrikes across eastern Ukraine. All were being prepped with KAB-500 precision-guided bombs with massive blast potential. The entire fleet was in emergency readiness, gearing up for a large-scale offensive into Ukrainian territory, but this time, those bombs wouldn't make it to Kharkiv or Sukhumi. They would detonate at their origin point, struck by a Ukrainian counterattack like never before. As of early 2025, Russia possessed only about 120 Su-34s, so this mission would directly impact Russia's ability to maintain air superiority over key zones like Donetsk and Kharkiv. At exactly 4:20 a.m., after more than an hour of silent flight, the 3 drones split formation, shifting into a spearhead pattern, approaching Marinovka from the northwest. Drone 1 took the lead, maintaining altitude at 120 meters, tasked with direct recon and target confirmation via terrain imagery. Drone 2 veered 15 left, flying at 90 meters. Drone 3 went 15 right at 110 meters. Drones 2 and 3 served as the main strike units, creating a 3-pronged flank to scramble radar detection and confuse enemy targeting systems. The approach zone around Marinovka is low terrain, surrounded by dense vegetation clusters standing 10 to 15 meters high and abandoned tech depots. Russia's low-altitude radar, Podlet K1, has a minimum scan angle of about 6 to 10, which means anything below the tree canopy or within terrain shadows won't appear on alert systems. On top of that, temperature variations between ground, tin roofs, and vegetation generated a natural thermal noise field, burying drone reflections completely. For nearly 90 seconds, the 3 drones vanished from Russia's early warning grid. That's all they needed, a window wide enough to deliver a surgical blow. At 4:22 a.m., with only 2,300 meters to target, Drone 1 switched to attack mode, accelerating to 140 kilometers per hour, holding trajectory with an autocorrection algorithm. No warning lights, no sirens, no air defense response. Ahead stood the maintenance hangar where a Su-34 marked Red 34 had just completed repairs. Drone 1 carried a 2.6 kilograms shaped charge warhead with a tungsten core and hardened steel casing designed to pierce industrial structures. The dual-stage fuse produced a hyperfocused pressure blast, unleashing a plasma jet moving at 9,100 meters per second and exceeding to 500 degrees Celsius, capable of breaching 22 millimeters of steel instantly. At 1,800 meters out, about 16 seconds to impact, it angled down at 28, locking onto the steel roof of maintenance bay number 2. The blast converged at a structural weak point, collapsing the central axis of the hangar. Detonation occurred at 4:24 a.m. Fire erupted within 0.3 seconds. The freshly repaired Su-34 was engulfed in flames in under 20 seconds. Seconds later, 2 oxygen tanks near the hangar's west wall detonated in succession, sending shock waves and shards of metal over 80 meters. Heat from the initial blast and oxygen explosions obliterated the wing and engine bay. Radar panels buckled, the cockpit collapsed from the reverse pressure. The aircraft became a scorched husk beyond recovery. In a covert mobile command post 32 kilometers from Marinovka, Ukrainian ops teams monitored everything without blinking. Infrared feed from ADJ unmanned 3 lit up with a sudden flare, temperature spiking exponentially. Su-34, Red 34, and maintenance bay number 2 neutralized. Moments later, drone to adjusted vector, turning for right, heading for the eastern fighter jet parking area. Distance to target to 1,100 meters, ETA 41 seconds. It accelerated, hugging the terrain, light headwind, but not enough to affect trajectory. Altitude held at 110 meters, just enough to clear the outer steel perimeter fence. Camera shifted to image recognition mode. A long fuselage, swept wings, and gull-shaped frame appeared. Signature profile of the Su-34, target locked. A fighter parked near the edge of parking bay 2. Based on satellite imagery from the previous day, recon teams confirmed the jet was armed with 2 KAB-500 laser-guided bombs, each weighing 500 kilograms, drone to carried a warhead identical to drone 1, a 2.6 kilograms tungsten core-shaped charge designed for pinpoint penetration. But this time, the target wasn't steel roofing. It was the junction between fuselage and bomb pylon, the most flammable and reactive zone. At 4:25 a.m., the drone dove at 35, striking directly into the underbelly of Su-34 Red 23. Heat triggered the bomb fuses. The first KAB-500 exploded 1.4 seconds later, destroying the tail and left engine of Red 34. The second bomb followed, creating a fireball over 60 meters high. Blast pressure exceeded 70 psi within a 20 meters radius. Thick black smoke engulfed the east tarmac. 2 losses in 1 strike, 1 aircraft destroyed, 1 crippled. From the control post, a Ukrainian coordinator confirmed, target 23 destroyed, fireball. Confirmed, drone 3 was closing in. Navigation feed showed its original target zone, parking bay 3, was now fully engulfed in smoke and heat from drone 2's explosion. The image recognition system could no longer distinguish aircraft structure in the interference zone. The primary attack route was no longer viable. After 1.7 seconds of processing, drone 3's onboard AI automatically switched to a backup plan. Strike the southern primary bomb storage just behind the repair hangars. Time to impact 62 seconds. It immediately altered course. Approach angle was set to 27, ideal for hitting hardened ground targets. Speed dropped slightly to 125 km per hour to optimize optical guidance in a high-interference environment. By this point, GPS signals had been fully jammed by a Russian REB unit, less than 3 kilometers away, but it was too late. Just before GPS blackout, a deep learning orientation algorithm had confirmed a visual match on the target. A sloped steel roof from 1,600 meters out. Geometric shape recognition locked onto the roof-to-wall seam, a known structural weak point. While the drone maintained course using visual tracking and gyroscopic data, no GPS was required. The southern bomb depot at Marinovka was an old Soviet-era structure. It had a corrugated tin roof, a galvanized steel frame, a weathered concrete floor, and 3 panel sliding doors with no blast-proof reinforcement. Based on the latest recon, inside were at least 30 FAB-250 bombs and a large stock of KAB-500s waiting to be loaded for Squadron 3. At 4:26 minutes and 7 seconds a.m., Drone 3 hugged the western wall, hitting exactly where the sloped roof met the load-bearing wall, the weakest welded seam. The initial blast was not large, but pinpoint accurate. Just 0.88 seconds later, the chain reaction began. The first FAB-250 bomb detonated. The shock wave crushed the tin roof, generating over 100 psi of pressure within 30 meters, enough to pulverize brick walls and fling multi-hundred-pound objects. 2 seconds later, the entire cluster of KAB-500s exploded in sequence. None had been defused or isolated. 6.2 seconds after impact, the largest explosion of the operation ripped.